What is up, Rib City? I am not Chad Dewey. I am not Chris Burkhart. I am Peter Sampson. It is Blazers game day. It is awesome to be with you. Man, it is beautiful here in the Rose City. It's a perfect day for some afternoon basketball. Trailblazers on the road taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. That's at 4 o'clock. Travis Demers will bring that to you. Man, so good to be with you. We've got a ton to talk about. If you want to join the conversation here on Rip City Radio, hit me up. 503-248-0620 is your number to call. You can always hit me up as well on Twitter, X, whatever we want to call it, at Peter Sampson, Sampson. Let's get it going. New Orleans Pelicans hosting the Trailblazers this afternoon. New Orleans, man, what a good team they've turned into of late. They've kind of had the question marks over the last few years, right? They have some pieces. What are they going to do with those pieces? Are they going to be able to gel? Is Zion going to be healthy? Can Brandon Ingram live without jacking up about 24 shots a game? They acquire C.J. McCollum a while back. How's he going to fit in? Well, things are starting to come together for the New Orleans Pelicans. They've won 5 of their last 6. They beat the Clippers just last night, 112-104. Zion with 34 in that game. This should be an entertaining one this afternoon. But I got to be real. I do think there's a possibility this is a trap game for New Orleans. You know how it is. Maybe you're looking ahead on the schedule. Maybe you're a little tired because you're on that second night of a back-to-back. Maybe you're playing a 19-win team on a back-to-back, and you go, we got this in the bag. Let's coast to a win. Let's get out on the road, and let's call it good. Well, the Pelicans, I still don't think can necessarily overlook this Trailblazers team. Yeah, they're favored by a lot. But second of a back-to-back, kicking off a 4-game road trip, getting on the plane as soon as this game's over, I think there's a chance they might be overlooking your Portland Trailblazers. But there's no denying. They're a quality team. They're led by Zion Williamson, who is just phenomenal. We've been waiting for this guy for how many years now? All the hype coming out of Duke. Everyone talked about the conditioning, the health, all those questions. And, of course, his NBA career so far, it hasn't really done a lot to answer those questions, has it? Or at least answer them in a way that fans want to see. Well, they've been careful with him. He basically missed a year and a half with lower body issues, appetite issues, I guess we'll say. I'm just going to say it. Dude's girthy. Dude's beefy. He is rotund. But this year, sitting him on a good amount of the back-to-backs, maybe the first game, maybe the second game, maybe at this point he plays through, kind of just maintaining his minutes. He's been able to go. And, man, he had a play against the Clippers last night where if you worry about this guy's conditioning, like a lot of the talking heads do, right? Oh, is he in shape? Oh, he needs to take that next step, blah, blah, blah. I mean, man, he had the strip steal. He went coast to coast in like 3 seconds and thundered it down. He looks pretty in shape to me. But the Pelicans, being led by Zion, that's not their only weapon. They really have done a good job putting together a team that really sort of complements, the other pieces of that team. Obviously, led by Zion, but then you have Brandon Ingram, tall, long slasher, can stick the three, can hit the mid-range, can get to the rack, definitely get to the foul line. You have C.J. McCollum, and I don't need to tell you, Blazer fan, about C.J.'s game. It hasn't changed, but that's not necessarily a bad thing where now he's the third option on a team, right? He can get points in bunches. He can get hot from the outside. He's not really going to play the wrong way, and he's going to stuff the stat sheet, and he does that. But beyond that, having a big man, Jonas Valanciunas, and then my guy, Herb Jones. Can I get some love for Herb Jones? And we're going to talk about the Blazers specifically in a second, but I got to shout out my guy, Herb Jones. I love Herb Jones. He's the perfect fifth option for a team. And if you like Tumani Kamara's game, Herb Jones is kind of the guy you want him to become, right? Fringe. I'm not even really going to say fringe. I'm going to say Herb Jones to make second team all defense this year. He can hit the three. He doesn't need the ball in his hands. And he's just that guy where you're not necessarily hurt offensively by having him out there on the court, but his real job is to just play lockdown defense. It's to switch, it's to maybe hide CJ McCollum, which Blazer fan, of course, you're aware of that. That was an issue with the Portland teams over the last decade, right? You have Damian Lillard, you have CJ McCollum. Yeah, you're going to get 50 points out of them combined, but how much are they going to give up? CJ in New Orleans now, you can sort of hide him on possessions. And that makes a huge difference, especially in crunch time where you don't necessarily have to take him off the floor. You can just have Herb Jones guard their shooting guard or their point guard or even their small forward, his natural position. He can even shift up. He can guard the four. Real versatile. I love that. And when I look at Tumani Kamara on the Portland Trailblazers, that's the kind of guy that I want to see him become. And I think he's got that in him. I mean, obviously, the defensive instincts are there. It's just, can he give you enough offense to justify staying on the court? So far, so good. Now, look, there's not a lot of pressure. It's a development year. We all know these things. We don't need to really rehash them. But one thing we've seen is, especially his ability at making baskets in the lane, getting to the basket. Kamara's developed this little baby hook. Uh, it's just a matter of can he stick the three with any sort of consistency. And by that, I don't mean being a knockdown 42% Steph Curry style dead eye 3-point shooter. Can you hit it at 35%? Enough that they got to respect you. His form looks good. I think he can. He's a little streaky, but if he can, then the Blazers have gotten that Herb Jones style guy. This is going to be an interesting game to watch. Obviously, the Pelicans, a lot of firepower with Jones, with Valanciunas. They play relatively good defense considering some of their personnel. Again, CJ McCollum and others. They're a well-coached team. And they've been fun to watch. I've watched my share of Pelicans basketball over the last few years because I keep waiting for them to be what we like to call that league pass team. Every year there's a league pass team, right? If you have NBA league pass, you can bounce around the NBA. You can watch all the games in other markets. And every year there's a team that's really, really fun to watch. Like last year was the Orlando Magic. They weren't necessarily very good. They are this year. But you could see those pieces developing. 2 years ago, without a doubt, it was the Cleveland Cavaliers. They were the league pass team. And every single season, I keep thinking, man, this is the year the Pelicans are going to be the out-of-market team to watch. And it hasn't quite happened. But this year, they're finally putting it together. They're gelling. The chemistry is good. You watch these games, you can tell that they just get after it for each other. They enjoy playing together. They enjoy each other's company. And while to a degree, chemistry is overrated, it is important. And I want to explain that. We all talk about chemistry and how much it matters to our sports team, right? And it does. But chemistry is not the difference between being bad and being pretty good. It's what takes a really, really good team and makes it a great team, or takes a good team and just makes it a very good team. And New Orleans has started kind of putting that stuff together. It's just a function of time. And a perfect example of that, even though the talent level is very different, it's the Boston Celtics. I mean, Blazer fan, we saw it last week, right? They're missing two of their starters, still an insane amount of talent. But beyond that, you could just see that Tatum and Brown had played for so long together that they just knew exactly what to do. And it's why, when Coach Billups talked about, I love that the Celtics don't get tired of playing the right way. That's what he's talking about. It's not necessarily just, okay, you shoot, now I shoot, now you shoot, now I shoot, and you're just alternating ISOs. And when you're talking a talent level of two players of that caliber, you're probably going to win a decent amount of games doing that. But that's not what they do unless nothing else is working. And so it does make the difference. That sort of thing is the difference between the Celtics being, still really good, say a 3 seed, and the best team in the Eastern Conference, and arguably the NBA, even though personally I'm still a believer in the Denver Nuggets until shown otherwise. Going to be an interesting game this afternoon. I love that it's a little bit of an early game. I love these East Coast games, East Coast ish games. Get in at 4, get out at 7 o'clock, enjoy the fifth quarter with yours truly. And you still got some time to maybe, have a late dinner, maybe go out, enjoy a tasty beverage or two here on a Saturday night. The weather is beautiful. You can enjoy the best of what the Portland area has to offer. I love it, man. I love it. Some of these home games, and I do. If you're wondering who I am, who's this Yahoo on the radio dial? I do cover the Portland Trail Blazers. I'm on press row, and I love it. It's a great gig. It does mean some very, very late nights at the arena. I'm talking not getting home until 11 p.m. and then I have to write or cut audio or do whatever I'm gonna do. So here in a situation like this, man, I'm in, I'm out. It's still going to be a little warm outside, even though the sun's going down, and I can take advantage of my Saturday night. All right, we'll go away, come back on the other side. We've got a lot to get to when it comes to talking about this game. We'll give you what's the scoot later in the show. We'll give you an NBA scoreboard update. We'll, of course, have Coach's Corner with Chauncey Billups. We'll hear from Coach Billups. Give you the Coors Light cold hard facts. I've done some deep dives into a particular Portland Trailblazer, and I want to give you some interesting stats with him. I am Peter Sampson. Got Michael Shacker here with me. This is Blazers Game Day right here on Rip City Radio. Peter Sampson with you back on Blazers Game Day right here, Rip City Radio. You can join the conversation 503-248-0620. If you're on hold, I see you. Stay there. If you're not, why not? Get in. Let's talk some Scoot Henderson, shall we? Scoot, I don't need to rehash the entire season that Scoot's had, but Scoot back from the adductor strain, which, by the way, until they explained that, that seemed really strange to me. You know what I mean? He joins the starting lineup. It takes a game. He starts. It was against the Timberwolves, if I recall correctly. You know, back in February, early mid February. The team is off for a week for All-Star break. Scoot, along with Shaden Sharp, who was injured, is invited to the NBA Rising Stars Challenge. Scoot plays. He looks pretty good. And then all of a sudden he's injured, right? And I go, oh, man. I would think maybe, are they resting him strategically? No, that doesn't make sense. They would never do that with the one guy that they really want to get some court time out there. No, he must actually be injured. And it turns out he did it. He aggravated it during the event itself at All-Star Weekend. But Coach Billups said it was something that he had been sort of dealing with. It had been nagging, not too serious. And then the team gets back together after their week off, and he's really laboring through practice. Obviously, with Scoot Henderson, you're not going to force this guy to labor through an injury. You just want him to take his time, get right, look good, feel good, and get the reps in. Well, it took longer than I think any of us wanted to. Not an extensive amount of time, but, we want to see Scoot Henderson on the court, right? He's exciting. And regardless of what his numbers look like in any given game, I mean, the offense just flows better when he's out there, which is crazy. I mean, you talk about true point guard instincts. He can have an amazing game, and you can see it, right? You can just see what he's capable of becoming. But even if he's having an off night, he picks up a couple fouls, he has a few careless turnovers, he struggles from the outside, maybe he goes 4 for 12 or something like that. Even with all that, the offense still flows. I wish the NBA counted hockey assists. You know what I mean? Like how you can get the assist in hockey where it's the pass that led to the pass that led to the goal. Because if they counted those, Scoot, I'm pretty sure, would be far and away the leader on the Trailblazers team. He has so many of those. He'll get to the rack. He'll make the pass to the corner. They do a quick swing. And whether it's a three, whether it's a one dribble mid-range shot, whatever it is, he makes the right basketball play. And I love, love, love seeing that out of Scoot Henderson, out of a 19, now 20, he's been 20 for a month now, year-old point guard. That's what you want to see. That's a tough position to learn how to play in the NBA. You're the coach on the floor. You're running the team on the floor. And, of course, the Blazers are a young team, but he's young even compared to his peers. It's tough to step in, take that leadership role, sort of command the offense. It's difficult. And I think he's done a relatively admirable job. Now, tonight, depending on who he's going up against here, if he gets matched up with CJ at all, I'd like to see him take CJ to the rack. I'm looking for a decent game. The one hole in Scoot Henderson's game that I really want to see worked on this summer, actually, I'm going to make that two, but they're related, and fixed next season. It's finishing at the rim, right? He can get by virtually anyone. If he wants to get to the rim, he's going to get to the rim. But he still struggles to finish a little bit. And I think that's related to his footwork. Sometimes his footwork, as he gets to the rim, as he makes his move for a layup, a reverse, whatever it is, it doesn't always look completely clean. And the good news is, I'm not going to say it's easily fixable, but it's easily fixable. That's something where once you're not worrying about games and getting your body right every day, and you just spend a month working only on that with a coach, you're going to get that fixed. I'm anticipating that if I see it, certainly the Trailblazers see it, the coaching staff sees it, and that's going to be worked on next season. That's going to look a lot better. But tonight, and frankly, going forward over the rest of the season, I do want to see that finishing just get a little bit better. It's kind of the one thing that I think he still needs to work on. The three-point shooting, you look at the season percentages, and yeah, they're not great. They're not great. There's no denying that. But you got to bear in mind, dude shot like 8% from three for the first month of the season, whatever it was, first 3 weeks of the season. And that's elevated significantly. And now it's to the point, man, if he has a catch and shoot three, I feel good about him taking that shot. I really do. The amount of work he's obviously put in on that shot is already paying dividends. And you know, if you caught me on the Rip City Drive with Chad yesterday during the 4 o'clock hour, I talked about that. I said, look, watching the G League ignite last year, that was sort of my big concern, is that the jump shot just wasn't there. It wasn't bad form, but it wasn't necessarily consistent form. And he's starting to get that down already, which is good because the kid's had a lot thrown on his plate. Again, rookie point guard, starting right off the bat. You get injured, you come off the bench, you earn that starting spot back with your play. He played himself back into that spot. You get injured again. Meanwhile, you're the number 3 overall pick. You're replacing a franchise icon. It's not an easy situation to be in. But I have all the belief in the world in Scoot Henderson. He's a great kid. You know, just being around the team. He's got a great personality. He's always positive. You know, some of these dudes, they're always scowling, and it's sort of like an act, like a shtick. You know what I mean? I'm a big bad guy. I'm tough. I'm mean. Don't jerk with me. And half the time, no. 90% of the time, it's just BS. And then meanwhile, Scoot, man, he's all just good vibes, man. Even if he's got a tough night, he's really hard on himself. He has really high expectations of himself. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Stay positive, right? It's like anytime you get on some website or that purports to help you, achieve more in your job, your relationship, whatever you're doing, or you read some self-help book, some Tony Robbins nonsense, whatever it is. What do they say? Think positive. And it's true. I mean, the books are silly and they're ridiculous and they make it sound a lot easier than it actually is. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. But Scoot does that. It's his default sort of mode in life. It's going to serve him well. And that doesn't mean that he doesn't care. It doesn't mean that he doesn't get ticked off at himself or any of that stuff, because he does. But I love just the way he approaches the game. And I don't know him that well. I don't even know if he could tell you my name. But, you talk to him and he's just got a great attitude. I love it. It's going to serve him well. 503-248-0620 is the number to call. Let's go out to the phone lines. Look what we got here. The more things change, the more they stay the same. My man Mitch in New Jersey is on the line. What is up, Mitch?
How's it going, Pete? How you doing? Great. Well, I hope you got front row seats with your new job, but you should be on the radio too. I think you could do both, but hey, more time for your family. It's almost like being retired.
Yeah. How is retirement? I know you talked about it a little bit yesterday. Mitch, when did you retire? How are you filling your time?
February 29th. That was leap day.
Yeah.
They keep me busy here. He's a lot of work. And my grandson gets to the ground quicker than I do. He can just, and he doesn't have to do any stretching now. He's still not running. He's up there. He's running, walking. Everything's fine. He's 20 months. I wish he'd eat more. More than Adam Dunn died there. Frank Howard died, but that's for another day. But I don't know how you do, but I see you got your son in music, enjoying your thing. You do a lot of things. I didn't know you're a Ram fan, but I know you're a Braves fan. So my Chargers and Dodgers, and I like the Clippers too. They'll do something to you. I'm wondering about your Portland Trailblazers. They have three good guards. I know you can't play them all, but maybe one of them could be can play both. So maybe you don't have to give all three. But you definitely don't have to draft Isaiah Collier, because you're going to be picking the top 5. Who would you like them to see them draft? You don't want to draft Bronny, especially in the second round, because then you might upset somebody. And I think he should stay another year or two.
Yeah, I think so too. Appreciate the phone call, Mitch. Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Blazers, I'm all in on Alex Sarr. Beyond that, I'm not exactly sure. What they need. I mean, we talked about it yesterday here on these very airwaves. I mean, if you get Sarr, I imagine you're probably looking at power forward. I know he plays center as well, but I think he's versatile enough that you could pair he and Aiton together. Beyond that, I mean, I know you're looking for that two-way wing. They still need that wing. I don't know if that's coming in the draft. I don't know if that's coming in free agency or, excuse me, a trade, which I don't think is going to really happen this summer. Basically, the Blazers need that guy, right? That guy. And they don't have that guy yet. Maybe Shaden Sharp becomes that guy. Maybe Scoot Henderson becomes that guy. Maybe you draft that guy. Maybe that guy, that's a lot of that guys, but maybe that guy is on another team and you acquire him on the trade market. Appreciate the phone call, Mitch. You know, it's funny. Back in the day, there are no other radio stations other than Rip City Radio, but if there were, I worked for one. And who would I talk to daily? My man Mitch in New Jersey. In fact, there was one day I was listening to a national show and Mitch calls. I get on my show and Mitch calls me. I chat with Mitch. It's always good to hear from Mitch. I get home, and this is several years ago. There was a simulcast. It wasn't on YouTube like it is now. It was on my television. And I turn on my TV, and I see Chad doing, and who do I hear? I hear Mitch in New Jersey.
Yeah, is he listening to multiple shows?
I don't know exactly how it works, man. I don't know what the connection is exactly, because clearly with that accent, he's not from here. Mitch is a good guy, though. And, yeah, you keep hanging out with that grandbaby. He asked about, you must follow me on social media. He asked about my son, getting him into music. Yeah, he's 10 years old now, and he's a rock star, man. We put out a single last year, and it did pretty well. Appreciate the phone call. If you want to weigh in, 503-248-0620. Of course, you can always watch the YouTube stream. You can get down there. I caught it a little bit yesterday. There was a little bit of conversation going on. It was good. It's always fun to check out the show within the show. All right, we'll go away, come back on the other side, hit you with an NBA scoreboard update, talk more Portland Trail Blazers versus the New Orleans Pelicans. I am Peter Sampson, in for Chad, Chris, whoever your host of choice is. Keep it right here. Welcome back in. I'm Peter Sampson. This is Blazers game day. Little Mr. Bungle for you in the background. Sorry, Yacht Rock fans. He's not here. And, while the cat's away and whatnot, a lot of action in the NBA tonight. I love that. We'll start with an afternoon game kicking off right about now, probably in just about 5 minutes. The Cavs visit the Houston Rockets. Cleveland somehow only favored by 4.5 in this game. I mean, the Rockets a decent team, but when Alperen Sengun went out with that brutal injury last week, he's out for the year. Fortunately, only a really, really bad sprained ankle and a sprained knee. It looked like he ripped up his ankle. It looked like he Yusuf Nurkic'd his leg. Very fortunate that it's just a bad sprain that's going to hold him out. But without Sengun, I don't know what the Rockets are going to do against the Cavs. Cleveland, a very good team. That kicks off 2 o'clock. Cavs favored by 4.5. 4 o'clock, decent slate. You've got the Brooklyn Nets at the Indiana Pacers. Tyrese Halliburton in a shooting slump. Pacers still favored by 8.5. After that, Charlotte Hornets taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. Sixers keeping the ship afloat while they wait for Joel Embiid, see if he can make his way back from his knee injury. Philly's still flavored by 10.5 points in that one. 5 o'clock, you've got Wizards at Chicago taking on the Chicago Bulls. Washington Wizards, that's not a good basketball team. I mean, and I don't mind struggling teams. There's always an opportunity to find enjoyable basketball, even with teams that don't win a lot of games. Believe it or not, I've watched my share of Detroit Pistons basketball. I've watched my share of, Charlotte Hornets basketball. Unfortunately, I've also watched my share of Wizards basketball. With the aforementioned teams, there's at least some hope there. There's at least a little bit of promise, future. If you squint, you can see wins, you can see talent. The Washington Wizards, led by Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma. It's kind of all you have to say, isn't it? Jordan Poole, gee, whoever saw that not working in Washington? Whoever could have foreseen that handing Jordan Poole the keys to your franchise wouldn't work out? Yeah, I know. I've just spent 2 minutes talking about how bad Jordan Poole is. I could do an entire show on how bad Jordan Poole is. I mean, he can score. They moved him to a bench role. He's been doing better there. But ultimately, Jordan Poole, and it's weird because he came from the Warriors, but he's not a winning player. And he had the issues with Draymond Green. And by issues, I mean he got punched in the face and knocked out by Draymond Green. That'll happen. And since then, his career has not been the same. I'm not saying it's necessarily related to the punch, even though it quite possibly is. But because of that, the Warriors had to choose Draymond or Jordan Poole. And despite Draymond's nonsense, it's still kind of an obvious choice. They move out Jordan Poole, and you get him out of the winning situation. He's not surrounded by winning players. And this is what happens. And that means that a mediocre Chicago Bulls team is favored by 10.5 points. Also at 5 o'clock, OKC Thunder at the Memphis Grizzlies. That is a very good team against a not very good team. OKC favored by 10.5. I'm not a betting man, but if I were, I'm taking OKC by 1,000,000 in that one. I love the Thunder. They are so, so good this year, and they're only going to get better. Sam Presti, that's how you do a rebuild, right? Like, that's how you do it. They're a good team. They're in the upper echelon of the Western Conference. They're young. Their average age is like 14 years old. Like, they're so young. Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams and all those guys. Oh, and they have like every 5th pick in the NBA draft for the next 5 years because of the, the Westbrook and Paul George, all those trades. So you've got a team that's young, that's good, and that can stockpile talent. So if you're Sam Presti, you're going to see what they can do this year. Do I want to keep this core together? Probably. Do I need to upgrade? And if you need to upgrade, you pick a salary on your team or you pick maybe a young talent that's not necessarily getting enough time, but can thrive elsewhere, and you can bundle him with a million picks and you can add another stud piece. And it's such a luxury because a lot of these teams, they're at the end of the window or they're trying to keep the window open. The Thunder's window just opened. It just opened. They haven't even felt the cool breeze. And already they're a great team with a million assets. The future is very bright for the Zombie Sonics. They're favored by 10.5 over the Memphis Grizzlies. On national TV, if there ever was a game that's going to be broadcast on ABC, it's this one. Warriors Lakers. Yeah, surprise, surprise. Every time I watch a game that's not on League Pass or NBA TV, anytime it's ESPN, it's TNT, it's ABC, it's always Warriors versus Lakers or Warriors or Lakers. I mean, they're fairly fun. It's nice seeing the Warriors struggle a little bit. The Blazers have that pick, top four protected. Uh, Lakers favored by 2.5 in this one. And Steph is dealing with the ankle, um, hoping he can come back from that relatively soon. It's nothing major. Anytime Steph Curry deals with an ankle, everyone holds their breath just because of the history of the ankle injuries, going back to early in his career. Lakers favored by 2.5 in that game. 6:30 tonight, Minnesota Timberwolves at the Utah Jazz. T-Wolves, I'm not going to say the wheels are coming off because they're not, but Karl Anthony Towns out with the torn meniscus. Rudy Gobert, is that team ever going to get a call from the officials again after he gave it that little money sign at Scott Foster? Probably not. Probably not. But I think as long as they have Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels, look, they're a great defensive team. Anthony Edwards is a beast. Despite covering the NBA, I had never seen Ant Edwards in person until Minnesota was in Portland. 2 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago, whatever that was.
Yeah, he could have spent the night at your house. They played 2 games.
Yeah, he could have. We could have fired up NBA 2K or maybe a fine selection of one of these old vintage NBA games behind us. We have NBA Hoops on the PlayStation 2, NBA 2K6 with Shaquille O'Neal on the cover. Yeah, we could have fired it up. I'll tell you though, Ant Edwards went crazy. He had 40. I don't remember if it was 40 exactly or 40 something. And I mean, the Blazers played pretty well. I mean, you go back to January when OKC punked them by 62, and then they got blown out by 35 or whatever it was to the Timberwolves. The Blazers came back. They played OKC well. They played Minnesota well, but Edwards just went crazy. He put that team on his back, and he basically stole that win. And he and his his group knew it because after the game, here's how it works. You're sitting on press row, the game ends. You kind of wait for the 100 level to clear out, go up the aisles, and then you walk down the aisles, you cross the court, you go into the tunnel, and you go hit the media room. And they're all set up for a press conference, and you go and you get some insight from Coach Billups. He asks him some questions, and while we were waiting, no one's in there. It's just me. I think it's Sean Hyken, friend of this program from Rosa Garden Report. Maybe someone else is in there. Maybe Eric Gunderson. I don't remember. And instead of going around, Anthony Edwards came through the media room to get to the locker room. There's a way to do that. It's no big deal. Things like that happen sometimes. And he had like 3 dudes with him, and they were all rubbing his head. And they said basically the realest thing ever. That was some superstar bleep. And it was some superstar bleep. And there's just 2 or 3 of us sitting there. It's totally quiet. And we glance at each other. Well, he's not wrong. It was, man. Timberwolves, we'll see how the rest of their season goes. Favored over the Jazz by 7.5 points. 7 o'clock game, your only 7 p.m. tip-off of the evening. New York Knicks, who just defeated the Portland Trail Blazers earlier this week, taking on the Sacramento Kings. Sacramento favored by 3.5 in that one. Domantas Sabonis playing so well this season. Unless his streak was broken in the last 2 games, since I haven't checked, He has an unbelievable double streak going on right now. We're talking 50-something games. Now, last week, did he check in into a blowout win just to grab one more rebound and secure it? Yeah, but sometimes you got to do that. Joe DiMaggio, sometimes he needed a fifth at bat to keep that hitting streak alive. What are you going to do? It's fine. Sacramento, I was expecting a little bit more out of them this year, but they look like they're starting to put it together. De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis playing very well. And I do want to give the Knicks their credit. Now that OG Anunoby is back, they traded for Anunoby, and they immediately looked like contenders in the Eastern Conference. A tier below Milwaukee and Boston, but still like a team that can win a playoff series. And maybe if things go right, could get to the Eastern Conference Finals. Anunoby gets hurt. Julius Randle gets hurt. They struggle. Anunoby back in the lineup. Randle's still out. They start winning again. The team's something like 14-2 when Anunoby plays. Jalen Brunson, so good. And he's one of those situations, I have to eat crow. I came on, the Portland airwaves when the Knicks signed him to that huge deal, and I said, classic Knicks move, overpay for a slightly above average point guard. Yeah, enjoy that, Knick fan. Enjoy that salary cap hell and getting 17 points a game on 41% shooting. Yeah, whoops, my bad. Jalen Brunson is a baller. And you saw what he did against you in Portland earlier this week. Man, he carried that team. He's so good. And of course, when Josh Hart is getting triple doubles, he's getting 20.19 rebound games. Yeah, that's not bad either. We'll see what kind of gas they have left in him in the playoffs. Tom Thibodeau likes to play his dudes extensive minutes. If he was permitted somehow to play his starters 49 minutes a game, I think Tibbs would do it. There's just not enough time in an NBA game. Kings favored by 3.5. And then, of course, at 4 o'clock, Blazers at the Pelicans. Again, Pelicans highly favored in this game. It's your biggest spread of the night. Pelicans favored by 13.5. I do think this could be a little bit of a trap game for the Pellies. Second of a back-to-back. They had to play hard to beat the Clippers last night. They immediately jump out on a 4-game roadie. It depends on who's playing. For Portland, Jeremy Grant, questionable with the thigh/hamstring. Jabari Walker, on my drive over here, was upgraded from doubtful to questionable. He's been dealing with a hip. I thought it would have been knees. The last time I was in the locker room, dude had huge bags of ice on his knees like he's a 18-year NBA vet. Nothing to worry about. Guys just do that. You got to keep that inflammation down when you're playing a lot of minutes. But Jabari Walker is now questionable. I think Portland has a chance to steal this game. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm not saying it's definite. I'm just saying it wouldn't shock me. So that's your NBA scoreboard. Active night in the association. Of course, that's headlined by your Portland Trailblazers. If you have any thoughts on the NBA at large or the Blazers game tonight, hit me up. 503-248-0620. I am on the cesspool that is Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. What do we call it? Do we call it X?
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
I feel weird.
I call it nothing. I don't even use it.
Yeah, I mean, man, if that wasn't where the people were that I communicate with about Blazers stuff, I'd be off it in a second. I'm off basically all other social media. I don't need it. But they've
You're on
got
Blazers game day in fifth quarter today.
That's right. The only media that matters, baby, is Blazers game day and YouTube. I mean, YouTube's sort of social-ish media. And that channel is Rip City Radio 620 is the YouTube channel. You're going to want to check that out. High-quality stuff, high-quality production. Shacker's doing a lot behind the glass there, making that look good for you. I caught it yesterday. It's a nice, solid broadcast. It looks clean. It sounds clean. And there are so many sports talk shows on YouTube. I'm not even talking, terrestrial airwave shows that go over there. But everyone has got their podcast, Believe in Blazers, hosted by Peter Sampson, or their blog or whatever. And they go, oh, yeah, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. And they might have good content, but it sounds like garbage, or it looks like garbage, or for some reason they try to stretch it out. It's okay to have, brief little segments. It's all right. This channel, Rip City Radio 620 on YouTube, it just brings you the programs, high fidelity. You can catch them live. if you're behind, maybe you were busy in the afternoon, maybe you were busy, you couldn't catch Blazers game day after the game you want to go, well, what did this bozo Samson, what did he sound like? How did he predict this game? You can go back, you can check it, you can see, was I right? Was I wrong? Make sure to follow that. It's a great channel. All right, we'll go away, come back on the other side. Let's hear from Coach Billups. I am Peter Sampson. I'm in for Chad, Chris, and the whole crew. It's great to be with you on Blazers Game Day. 6. Welcome back to Blazers Game Day. Peter Sampson in for Chad and Chris and everyone else that takes you up to Blazers game time. Today, they're going to take over. 4 o'clock is the game. We'll take you until 3 o'clock. It's time for the Coach's Corner. Let's hear from Chauncey Billups. I talked about Tamani Kamara earlier and how I foresee kind of a Herb Jones role for Tamani Kamara as he develops. Let's hear from Billups on Tamani Kamara's defense against Jalen Brunson.
That's Tumani's. That's two superpower. It's his physicality defensively, his length, guarding the basketball. That's kind of his thing. That's where he helps us at the most. To be honest with you, and we all had our hands full dealing with Jalen tonight. I thought he put on a clinic in the game. His patience. He just manipulated the defense the whole night. He got everybody in foul trouble. He put on a masterful performance.
Yeah, and he is right. Look, two things can be true. Tamani Kamara can play great defense, and Jalen Brunson can still score 40 points. And those weren't all on Tamani Kamara. But again, his style of defense, it's physical and it's up in your face. And when you watch the game this afternoon, you pop on TV, you're listening to Kevin and Lamar, or, you're listening to the broadcast here on 620 Rip City Radio, Travis Demers. You're going to see, Tamani Kamara right from the start. He's full court pressing, even when no one else is, even when that's not the set call. He is the guy that is making all of that happen. We did talk about Scoot Henderson as well. I want to hear a brief cut, Chauncey Billups, on how he coaches Scoot.
You got to change it up sometimes. Sometimes you, right after the game, you talk to him. Sometimes you text him late at night. Sometimes you watch the next morning. You watch it, after the emotion is going down. Scoot is, he's so competitive. He's so competitive. You can see him out there, in games. If a guy scores on him or if he turns it over, like he's really hard on himself. So I got to I change up how I address Scoot. And this is not only when he's struggling, this is when he's playing well too. As we're learning each other, I've learned, and I kind of got to mix it up on him.
Yeah, I love how Billups kind of takes a multi-tiered approach with Scoot Henderson. You can't be constantly shouting down your guy. And don't get me wrong, he's not handling Scoot exclusively with kid gloves. At the Celtics game, Scoot had just a brutal turnover in the second half. He had a really nice first shift, and then he came out, didn't have a great second shift. And in his third shift, in the second half of that game, he immediately came out and he tried to do some crazy behind the back, fancy dribble drive move. And if he had pulled it off, it would have been dope, and we'd still be talking about it. I guess I'm talking about it now anyway. It didn't work out, and he basically handed the ball to the other team. How can I put this? Billups was not impressed. He was not happy with that decision, with that move, with that choice, and you could see it. But at the same time, he also understands he's a rookie, he's a young rookie, and he's going to make mistakes. So you got to alternate long leash, short leash. You got to protect him from himself, but at the same time, you got to allow him to make turnovers. You have to allow him to learn how to play NBA defense. That's why he still fouls at a decent rate, but it's not like at the beginning of the season where it's like, oh, cool, Scoot has 4 fouls in 13 minutes. That's not really happening anymore. He'll have games where he'll have 4 or 5. He's still figuring that out. But I do think Chauncey Billups is, and we can talk about Billups coaching and various aspects of it, but when it comes to that, developing a point guard that was drafted 3rd overall, I think Billups is the guy for that. And that's your Coach's Corner here on Rip City Radio. 503-248-0620 if you want to join the conversation. Let's go to Sean in Portland. Sean, what's up, man?
Hey, Peter. Hey, thanks, crew. Much love on this Saturday afternoon. Hey, I totally agree about, Scoot and Chauncey. I really do think he's got a lot to offer. I've got a ton of complaints, and he's really easy to pick apart. But one thing, like even from day one, like I think I remember a quote. They asked Scoot after the first game, what did Chauncey tell you? And like Chauncey didn't talk to the guy before the first game at all. He just said, kind of let him jump into deep waters. Anyways, I disagree with stuff like that, but happy Saturday to y'all. It's a beautiful Saturday, and to any of us watching the game still, there's a lot of really fun stuff to watch, even on the nights where even the effort is questionable. So that's me. Rip City, y'all.
All right. Appreciate you, Sean, in Portland. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of interesting. We'll talk about the first game. I do disagree with the level of effort. I think there's effort. And do I think maybe it's varied a little bit? I do. I do, but I don't think that the team has quit. You could get to the point that road trip in January, I wondered, man, is this team on the verge of quitting on Coach Billups? They didn't. You got him back. I mean, they haven't won a ton of games. You look at the talent level, you look at the youth, and you go, well, look, I mean, they're not going to win a ton of games. I do think it's varied, but where I'm with you, Sean, is, yeah, it's interesting, that first game. I can see the approach, man, just let him play. But, I mean, it's clear that, I mean, going up against the Clippers, his idol, Russ Westbrook, it's clear in that first game, Scoot was shook. He was shook. He had the stars in his eyes. It was his rookie, welcome to the NBA rook moment. It happens, but I was a little surprised that there wasn't a little maybe pep talk, and maybe there was, and it just wasn't shared with us, and that's fine too. That's why I've been really impressed with Scoot's development so far. You see it and you go like, man, he's a little more raw than maybe he was advertised, and it makes me wonder how many so-called NBA experts actually watched all his games with the G League Ignite, because the way he was hyped, I had people sell him to me as he's John Morant with the brain. Okay, well, he's crazy athletic, but it's a different type of athleticism altogether. It's not up and down. It's not that vertical. He's not going to jump 41 inches in the air and just yam down on you. It's more speed, a burst, and he's got that strength. And as soon as he learns to finish, man, I think the amount of finishing through contact he's going to be capable of is going to be really impressive. Sean, I appreciate you. If you want to join in, 503-248-0620. Hopefully Sean is going to enjoy the game, enjoy the sunshine, maybe pop the radio out in the backyard, man. If I wasn't doing this right now, and I'm really glad I am, but if I wasn't, that's what I'd be doing. I'd be grilling. Grill season is officially on us. I'd be in the backyard. I don't know if I'd be making some ribs, maybe some barbecue chicken, slow and low. It's the way to go. Maybe I'd just sear up a steak, a couple ribeyes for Kim and I, whatever it would be, I'd be out there. All right, we'll go away, come back on the other side. I've got your Coors Light cold hard facts, and then later in the hour, we will wrap up and hand things off to Travis Demers and bring you Blazers versus Pelicans. I am Peter Sampson. It's Rip City Radio. Welcome back. Blazers game day. Man, that is not yacht rock. That is not 80s easy listening.
He freaks when I play the cover of Easy.
Yeah, it's a great cover.
Yeah,
This
Chad
is-
only loves the originals.
He only gets down with the Commodores, little Lionel Richie. Nothing wrong with that. But this is early 90s Faith No More. We were geeking out on Faith No More. Me and Shacker just realized that we were at the same Faith No More concert at La Luna back in 97.
Yeah, I started in the back and worked myself to the front right of the stage. Did I bump into you?
It's quite possible. Back in the old tape trading days, I don't have a VCR anymore, but I have a VHS of that show. You can see me crowd surfing it. And I mean, I'm a tall guy, man. I feel bad. I was a little thinner then, obviously, when I was 20, but 19. But I feel bad for anyone that had to try to keep all 6'3" of me up while they're trying to push me through the crowd.
You had steel toe boots. This is the truth. So.
Exactly, man. I had him. I had my 8-eye docs on, man. All right. No one cares about that except me and you. Let's go ahead and get to some Coors Light cold hard facts. Thanks, Coors Light. I appreciate you sponsoring this segment. And I haven't talked about him yet. I'm going to use this segment to talk about Matisse Thybulle. And you go, man, why are you going to dedicate a segment to a dude averaging 5.5 points a game? Because he's been a defensive monster this year. And some really interesting stuff has come out just regarding how good he's been. I want to thank the Trailblazers PR department for putting this together. Matisse Thybulle far and away leads the league in 3-point blocks. And how many times have we seen that? Some dude thinks he's open and tries to get off a shot from beyond the arc. And you have Thybulle who takes one step and acts like he's going to hit the guy in the corner and then cuts back and blocks the 3-point shot from the wing. He has 25 this year. Second place, Scotty Barnes with 17. That is a massive difference. I know 8 different doesn't sound like a lot. It is. Matisse Thybulle. Deflections. How many times, even if it doesn't result in a steal, how many times do we see Matisse Thybulle deflect the ball, make life harder on the offense? Deflections per 36, Matisse Thybulle leads the league, 5.3. Second place, Alex Caruso, very nice defender for the Bulls, 4.6. So Matisse Thybulle at 5.3, very nice there. And steal to turnover ratio. Matisse Thybulle, decent 3-point shooter, shooting 35% this year, which I think, if you had told Philadelphia 76ers fan that you'd get 35% from Matisse Thybulle, you'd be thrilled. He really struggled from outside over there. Shot well with the Blazers, 38% last year, down to 35 this year, but you live with that. Steal to turnover ratio. He hits at 35%. He doesn't really turn the ball over. 2.83, more than double second place Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for the Nuggets at 1.4. Not only that, he ranks second in total deflections this season, 218. Second in total steals, 113. Third in steals per game at 1.8. And he's tied for third in deflections per game, 3.5 deflections per game for Matisse Thybulle. I'm really glad that the Blazers matched the Mavericks offer. He was a restricted free agent. He signed an offer sheet with the Mavs. The Blazers matched pretty much instantly, brought him back. It's a 3-year deal. And he's one of those guys that's a really nice piece, no matter what you want to do. Like, no matter what you're trying to do, Matisse Thybulle can help you. If you want to keep him, I mean, obviously he's a great defender. He shoots the 3 well enough. You can start him. You can play him extensive minutes. You can start him and play him spot minutes. You can bring him off the bench. He's kind of alternated all of that this season. But also, if you're a big believer in Tamani Kamara, and I am, and whether you at the 4 you have Jeremy Grant and you believe in Jabari Walker, or you think that other forward is coming in the draft or via trade or what have you, Matisse Thybulle's one of those guys, especially on his contract, that a lot of contenders look at and go, man, we could use a fourth quarter defender like that. We could use him to help, just shut down the opponent and just lock up a game. And that's the challenge, right? Like when Yusuf Nurkic, a lot of fans were interested in maybe like, deal Nurkic or possibly re-sign Nurkic. It wasn't going to happen. And the reason is at the money, and he wasn't paid necessarily unfairly, say he's making 17 and a half a year, and that's fair value for Yusuf Nurkic. But what team that has that kind of cap room available or is willing to give up with that kind of salary in a trade goes, we're a Yusuf Nurkic away from contending, right? It all has to align. You can't just flip around. You can't just turn GM intelligence off like it's NBA 2K24 and force the deal through. But a guy like Matisse Thybulle, who's not making big money, is versatile, and has at least shown over the last season and a half that he's not going to kill you from three. He can at least he can stick it if he's wide open. I think a lot of contending teams would be interested in that for just maybe a contract and a pick. You're probably not going to get a super high value pick for that. And I'm not even necessarily advocating for trading the guy. It's just if that's the direction Portland goes down, I don't think it'll happen this summer. It might, or maybe next summer. You have those options available to you. This summer, I would anticipate Malcolm Brogdon probably being on the move. I think this is the summer that they do that. Again, another guy where every contender, basically every team could use Malcolm Brogdon. Every team in the NBA. If you're a contender, he's a winner. He can come off the bench. He can start. He can play point guard. He can play shooting guard. If you're a middling team, he raises your ceiling a little bit. If you're a bad team, he's a great mentor. He has a good attitude. He's going to help the young guys and accept his role. I absolutely anticipate him being moved this offseason. Robert Williams III, a little less so, but probably he doesn't have the value that he had after the knee surgery that's kept him out all of this season, but he's still got value. Everyone knows the injury concerns, but if and when he's on the court, he is a real difference maker defensively. So that's what I'm looking for from the Blazers this offseason. Anything beyond that, that's possible. You never know what's going to shake loose, but we'll all have to wait and see. I think the big summer for moves is going to be next year. All right, we'll go away, come back, wrap things up on the other side. We'll get you to Travis Demers, to actual Blazers pregame. Portland taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. You're going to want to leave it right here. But first, you've got another 15 minutes or so with me. I'm Peter Sampson. This is Rip City Radio 620. Peter Sampson back with you. It's time for my keys to the game. Blazers taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. In just about an hour and 15 minutes, we'll get you to the official Blazers pregame show here in just about 10 minutes. The key for me is for the Blazers to just make threes. I know that sounds simple, but the New Orleans Pelicans, man, they defend the three as well as anyone in the NBA. They only allow teams to shoot just a hair under 35% from three, and you're going to need to find ways to get loose. Again, that starts with my man Herb Jones, who I've already dedicated 10 minutes to. I'm not going to rehash that. But also, Brandon Ingram, you don't think about Brandon Ingram as an elite defender, but he's so long, he causes problems on the perimeter if you're trying to, get off from behind the arc. He's got length to challenge those shots, to make them difficult. And, you're not going to be able to rack up easy points from the outside. It's one of those things you got to take what's given to you. But Jonas Valanciunas, not really recognized as a great center. He's a good center, but he's not in that Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic sort of level. And he's not necessarily even in that second tier, which is where I put DeAndre Ayton. I think is just in that tier right outside the top 10. The way he's playing right now, he is a top 10 center, but he's right on the verge, right? I don't think that's controversial. Jonas Valanciunas, right just a notch below that, along with, say, like Steven Adams when he's healthy. Obviously, this year he's been out for the year for the Grizzlies. Solid defender, eats up a lot of space in the paint, and just makes life difficult. So if it's tough to get to the rack and it's tough to shoot threes, well, what's left? Well, the mid-range, which is the least efficient shot in basketball. You don't want to fall into that trap if you're the Portland Trail Blazers, unless you're DeAndre Ayton. Of course, you want to pull Jonas Valanciunas out, and you want to stick a couple of those 15 to 17-foot middies. DeAndre Ayton, statistically, the best mid-range shooter in the NBA. No, not best mid-range shooting center, best mid-range player in the NBA. That's even better than Kevin Durant. And how many times have you seen Kevin Durant take a hard dribble or two towards the rack, pull up from 16, and hit nothing but net? Oh, I've seen that probably 1,000 times in my life. You probably have too. DeAndre Ayton this season is hitting at a higher rate than he is. So that's who I want Portland to be attacking from the mid-range. I want him to try to pull Valanciunas out. I want Simons and Scoot to get to the cup and try to open things up on the outside. Now, I did mention that Jabari Walker was upgraded from doubtful to questionable. We have the latest injury report. Jabari Walker will play. Anthony Simons will play. Ryan Rupert is available. Jeremy Grant is out. And Matisse Thybulle, who I just talked up with the cold hard facts and all of his deflections and defensive ability, are also out for the Portland Trail Blazers. Scoot is going to go. He's going to be on a minutes restriction, which makes sense. So that being said, the Blazers going to be a little shorthanded. With Simons being able to go, I think you're going to see a lot of offense from Simons. The Blazers are going to kind of put, or Simons, excuse me, is going to put the Blazers on his back, look for a lot of shots there. But ultimately, the Pelicans, they don't make life easy on you. It's tough. It's tough to shoot from three. It's tough to get to the rack. You don't want to get forced into those mid-range bad habits. And that's what good teams do, right? They understand the advanced analytics. I know so much of that stuff, people talk about the advanced stats, and my eyes just glaze over. They have their place. And I know some people take that way too seriously to the point where it's like, yeah, but bro, I watch basketball. And what you're saying, I understand that statistically it's valid or whatever, but it doesn't jive with what I'm seeing. But smart teams know that analytics have a place. Every team uses them. And they understand that forcing teams into those mid-range shots, if you're getting them to take the least efficient shot in basketball, that's exactly what you want. 2 steps inside the three-point line. You know what I mean? It's worth 50% less. The Pelicans do a great job at doing that. It's going to be an interesting game. All that being said, I do think Portland has a chance to come in and steal one, even with these guys, with Jeremy Grant not available, Matisse Thybulle not available as well. I just think the Pelicans, they played last night. The Blazers are a 19-win team. They might be looking ahead to this road trip. They got a 4-game roadie ahead of them, and it's really easy for a team. Even a good team does this. You go, well, we got this. All we got to do is show up, and we're going to win this game, and then we can actually look ahead to the games that are actually going to be a challenge for us. It's the NBA. Any team can win on any given night. Would I expect it? Not necessarily, but would it shock me? Not in the least. So